Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. I was at the library yesterday and I was reading an article from The Hollywood Reporter where actress Issa Rae, star of HBO's series Insecure, says that she will be exploring the concept of black toxic masculinity in Insecure Season 3. Now, when it comes down to Issa Rae and any sort of analysis of black men, I tend to be wary because when it comes down to your Issa Rae is one of these handkerchief head wearing, buck dancing, bojangling, Aunt Jemima syrup sipping mammies. And when it comes down to females like your Issa Rae, any sort of analysis of black men is bound to be skewed and extremely biased. And when you hear one of these black females like Issa Rae talking about the concept of black toxic masculinity, you need to understand that she's not going to be exploring the concept of black toxic masculinity from an objective perspective. No, she is going to be giving us her subjective view, and she's going to be using the term of black toxic masculinity as another way to denigrate and degrade black men and to denigrate and degrade the image of black men. And the reason why your Issa Rae wants to explore the concept of so-called black toxic masculinity is because she wants to find another way to, again, bash the black man, degrade the black man, and present the black man in a negative light. Now, anyone who has explored the whole concept of this subject known as toxic masculinity, like I have, we know that the whole concept of toxic masculinity is just another way to say that men who are acting masculine are behaving badly just for being themselves. And the whole concept of toxic masculinity is designed to be able to shame men for being men and shame men for expressing themselves as men. So the whole concept of toxic masculinity is just a feminist concept that was designed to make men feel bad for being men and make men feel bad for behaving in naturally masculine ways. Now, when it comes down to your feminists like your Issa Rae, they want to create the concept of black toxic masculinity as a way to degrade black men. And what they want to do is create this whole exploration of so-called black toxic masculinity so that they could use this as a way to use some sort of psychological science to say, oh, these black males are acting in a toxic masculine way. However, when you take a critical look at your black communities, you can clearly see where the concept of toxic masculinity came from. And the concept of toxic masculinity did not come from men. No, the concept of toxic masculinity came from women. Now, over the last 50 years, as this feminist movement has gone on in the United States of America, we've had many of these black women who were the ones who said they could be the mother and the father, they could raise a boy to be a man, and that they were strong and independent, and they did not need a man to raise their children or take care of their families. And as they went and created their single mother households from the 1960s onward, they were the ones who were primarily in charge of raising these boys to become men. So if we have any so-called toxic males out there, they were not the products of homes where there were fathers in the home. No, those boys got natural masculinity. No, the ones who got the actual toxic masculinity were the ones who were raised in these single mother households by these females who said they could be the mother and the father, they could raise a boy to be a man, they were strong and independent and did not need a man, and that they could take care of a family all by themselves because they were the primary heads of household, they were the primary breadwinners over the home, and they were the primary leaders of over the home. So if we have these toxic black males in the black community, they came primarily from these black females. And to have someone like Issa Rae sitting there and saying she's going to be exploring the concept of black toxic masculinity, that's her being disingenuous, especially when you look at her track record and her recent book from 3 years ago where she said that a black woman would do better with an Asian man. Well, it looks like to me that your Issa Rae, like many of these other females out here, want to do is run away from the black toxic male they created and the toxic black community that she created called Blackistan. And what she wants to do is get away from that community. And now that she's got a little bit of distance from the black community and now that she's part of the Hollywood machine, what your disingenuous Issa Rae wants to do is make it look like she's going to explore the concept of black toxic masculinity. But when she does this exploration, I have to wonder, will she hold this black female accountable for the creation of that so-called toxic black male that terrorizes many black communities? Because I doubt she's going to do that in her Insecure series, where she sits there and uses it as a platform to try to degrade black people. Because this minstrel, what she does is she tries to make it look like she's some sort of intellectual, but in actuality, she's just another mammy pandering to her white liberal slave masters, looking to get some butter biscuits and some Aunt Jemima syrup and her face on the bottle of that Aunt Jemima syrup so that she can be considered the apple of those white liberals' eyes. Now, when it comes down to this, Issa Rae again, her whole argument talking about black toxic masculinity, that's not something I would consider credible coming from a woman who, again, said that in one of her books that black women would do better to be with an Asian man. So when I listen to that type of person, I know where she's going to come from, and I know that she's going to use, again, the toxic masculinity argument as a way to denigrate and degrade the black man, denigrate and degrade the black male image, and try to make it look like the black male is acting toxic when he's just being a normal man, and try to make it look like this black man who's just being himself is toxic for being naturally masculine. When in actuality, the toxic male, again, is the black male who comes primarily from the single mother household, this beta male who has developed all of these effeminate behaviors, this beta male who does not understand what boundaries are, this beta male who follows and stalks black men on social media who he disagrees with, this beta male who goes around talking about black men behind their backs, this beta male who goes and is sitting up on social media 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning watching another man's videos, looking for some sort of information to go and attack that man with. This beta male who, again, just does not know how to function like a man because he was not raised to be like a man. And this beta male who, again, when he comes down to boundaries, doesn't know when to put a period at the end of things and keeps pushing because he learned many of his social behaviors from females, and that's the core reason why this male is dysfunctional, and this is the main reason why this male has toxic masculinity. He has toxic masculinity because he never had a father in his life, and he's acting in the same social ways that a female would behave. But your Issa Rae, she's going to sit there and talk about black toxic masculinity, but she will never sit down and look at the real culprits who created toxic masculinity, these females who were part of the feminist movement, and the black women who supported those feminists in their feminist movement, the women who drank the Kool-Aid of the white feminist and the white liberal, and wound up creating this group of toxic males. Because, what's really interesting to me is that she'll sit there and say natural black masculinity is bad, but they'll sit there and give the beta males who participate in the actual toxic masculinity a complete pass for all of their dysfunctional behaviors. And the reason why they're going to get a pass for all of their dysfunctional behaviors is because your women like your Issa Rae don't want to be held accountable for those toxic males that they bore, bred, and raised over the last 50 years. All of these toxic males who are all throughout the community, these toxic males who vary from your nice guy to your psycho-stalking simp beta males. And these are the males that she doesn't want to talk about, but she'll sit there and talk about the concept of toxic masculinity, but won't explore who was the creator of all the toxic males. Because this is the whole thing with many of these feminists and this whole argument of toxic masculinity. Again, what they want to do is bully and shame regular men who are raised with fathers in their lives for being naturally masculine and expressing themselves in natural masculine ways. And they want to make you feel bad about being naturally masculine by calling it toxic masculinity, but it's an actual deflection to deflect from all of the real toxic males who were created in these single mother households. These beta males who, again, are the men who go out here and stalk women, the men who go out here and assault women, the men who go out here and participate in violence like mass shootings, and these men who were primarily, again, raised by women and were the ones who were the toxic males. They're the ones who get the pass from your Issa Rae and many of these black females and many of these females in America. And these females, again, give those real toxic males a pass because they don't want to be held accountable for the progeny they create that terrorize places like Blackistan and parts of the black community. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, and Stop Simping in the Workplace, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.